If you haven't already seen it, a brand new promotional video dropped this morning. I dropped a video with my live reaction to it, and it showcased those 7 voice actors, which I dropped a video yesterday talking about. Yeah, that's right, I'm trying to get on my bully. And sometime this week, I'm going to drop a more in-depth analysis of that trailer talking about each of those voice actors, because they obviously all sounded amazing. The Apocalypse book, to highlight one right now, I cannot wait to freaking see him in action. However, I hate to be the I told you so guy, however, look at this quick clip from a previous chapter review video because I told you so. As Fuuko says, this might be a long-term combat situation. I feel like potentially that external threat could be an Uma. Whether that Uma kind of invades this school and kind of assimilates his people, kind of like some body snatching type stuff, you know, really headcanoning right now. Or if we just have this entire arc go by, and at the end of it, there's a big Uma to, you know, be the icing on the cake type of situation. Yeah, that's right, a brand new Uma, and I'm so excited to talk about Undead Unluck, chapter 171. Let's get to it. And not to toot my own horn, but as I mentioned, I'm dropping a lot of Undead Unluck content, a couple videos in the past couple days, and a whole catalog of videos from the past. Subscribe if you're new here, like, and leave a comment for me. I don't care if it's about the anime or about this chapter in the new Uma color. Just how excited are you to be a part of the Undead Unluck community right now? Right out the gate, we are blessed with another color panel, and it should be about September or October based on the time frame of this arc, and I love this little winter picture we get. Nico and Ichiko outside bumming stoves, trying to stay warm and hide from the kids, while everybody else rejoices in what seems to be the first snowfall of the winter. And I love this ongoing gag that Yoshifumi has with Sean's character of this dude just always having his eyes closed at the most inconvenient times, and he kinda, you know, runs with that as this chapter begins. Chikara's parents gave him this brand new camera, but as he's trying to test it out, he can only get blurry pictures. With the onset of Unmove, he's having a hard time taking pictures now. He has to be in a constant sway, a constant little bit of motion, because as is mentioned, if he stops moving his arms or his legs, you know, Unmove begins. And although Sean thinks the solution to this problem is as simple as Chikara using Unmove to, you know, stop the people from moving so he gets a perfectly still picture, it takes a painter, another artist as Gina, to understand that that's not the point of what he's trying to create. A painting, a photograph, the person who's trying to, you know, capture that moment, they want to capture a moment. They don't want to create something and capture it, you know, that's a completely different type of photography art than what they are trying to do, really capture life, the essence of it. But this entire next part of the chapter was really interesting to me because this entire arc, Fuuko has been trying to let Chikara live his natural life, trying to have him be able to be happy because she came into his life and gained something from it. She's getting to go to high school and live out a fantasy, a dream of her own, but she wants him, as she's wanted all the Negators, to live their happiest life as well, for them to avoid the tragedy. And like the real true tragedy of Chikara's life, it wasn't just not being able to be a photographer, but it was having to leave behind his family, his friends, the people who he was enjoying living and loving and being a part of, you know what I mean? Because as Fuuko gives Chikara this contraption to help him out in taking photographs, this thing which she and Nico had built out, that entire situation where they're talking about the construction of that was funny, but I kind of want to move past that. I find it very interesting that at the end, Chikara's like, oh, I understand what they're doing. This is because I'm not going to be able to see everybody at the end of the graduation. And it's messed up because Fuuko thinks she's like avoiding the tragedy for Chikara, but like, I think him, like, he's still a smart person. He's not just a child. He understands the reality behind that situation. That even though he's going to get to go to graduation, that he's going to get to practice his photography and even be supported in being able to use his ability and still like do photography, all that sort of junk, it's still going to end up with him having to leave the people he loves. And even if he does end up becoming a family with the Union, it's always going to be that sad reality that like he does have a negator ability. Basically, at the end of the day, F God. But as Chikara goes home to rest for the night before the graduation, we get an interesting shot. We see that Fuuko has actually been kind of on a lookout over Chikara, and I kind of was headcanoning all of my thoughts about why she was doing this. Was I like, does she not think the tragedy has been averted? Does she think that there's going to be some sort of issue that comes up? However, I don't really think it's that. I think it's just the fact that, as Fuuko had said at the end of last chapter, I'm going to support you through learning your ability. And Chiara is still very new to his ability. It is ability that can kind of be dangerous if he messes up and randomly proccing it and randomly not being able to move or something. So I think that she is just kind of watching over the household, making sure that if any issues do arise, that she's there and ready to be in action whenever that happens. But as Fuuko concludes that Chiara will be safe to go to graduation tomorrow, she gets an interesting call from Nico Vorjo to return to school as we go to the graduation ourselves. Imagining the reality of this graduation scene is absolutely hilarious. Think of going to your graduation and all of your teachers are gone. Not only that, but half of the students, the people who presumably were getting good grades throughout the year, are just all gone as well. Think about it. My nurse is gone. My science teacher's gone. My history teacher's gone. The principal is gone. It made no freaking sense at all. And going back to what I said earlier in the video, Fuuko kind of thinks that Chiara is a little bit ignorant, a little bit naive to the true situation which is going on, and that he doesn't know that at the end of this graduation he still has to leave his family and friends, and that he doesn't know that the whole world of negators and umas are a little bit wonkier and wilder than she or he can even imagine. But it's at this moment where he even realizes something messed up is going on. Fuuko told Chiara that after graduation she was going to erase the memories of everybody around. You know, that Men in Black style thing that I don't have to go into too much depth about. We've seen it a plethora of times in the series. But Chiara realizes that for it to have happened before graduation and for all of these people to be missing, there must be an issue. And that issue comes in the form of a new Uma. As I told y'all, I had the clue ya. Come on, no, literally, no. Let me compose myself, but seriously, I told you. Yoshifumi Gotsuga had to have brought Numa to this arc. I don't know why I thought it. So Chiara races off to find Fuuko and Ko as we see what's keeping them occupied. Uma Color, the embodiment of pigment. This thing's got a really dope design, y'all. It's got a color palette on the top of its head with brush-like braids sweeping back behind it, and it seems to travel with these giant streams of paint. And although Fuuko tries to get Gina to pin it, it's seemingly unbothered by Unmove, seeing straight through a crack on top of the barrier and shooting over Gina. And y'all, let me go on the headcanon for a second. What the heck can this thing do? They're sitting over here talking about, let me phone all the traffic lights, take over them all, let me make sure that, like, what's about to happen? And a real joke, is Yoshifumi Gotsuka really pinning himself to become the grand villain of this series? If Uma Color gets destroyed, it's going to be canon that this series is in black and white, and then I'm really reading some meta breaking stuff. That's some fourth wall breaking stuff right there, Yoshifumi Gotsuka. However, I don't imagine that Uma Color could be taken out of the world. That would be terrifying. That is a terrifying thought, to see just everything in black and white. Ah, dude, that's racist, or racist. Ableist. In all seriousness, this Uma situation is wild, and as we see, the entire cast of negators are all chasing after it, aside from Chiara at the moment. But Feng, our boy, it's been half a year, he is absolutely just bubbling over the top with energy, and he's ready to just get it out. He says, Fuuko, let me fight this thing. However, we see a real moment of growth from our boy, Feng. Whenever he goes down to punch this thing, it just transforms into Cho. And for a second, that boy Feng hesitates. He couldn't punch Cho, even though this thing was just doing some sort of decoy thing. Respect to our boy Feng. He's becoming a human being. If he learns how to love, think about it. Kenpachi, he had to learn his sword in order to truly become like the strongest dude. If Feng learns how to love people truly, he could become the pinnacle of creation truly. I can't wait to see it. But even though nobody's been able to lay a hand on Uma Color, you know who had to come in to save the day? Our girl, Izumo Fuuko. And it's crazy. I'm kind of skipping past, a very important part. However, the rest of the gang is sitting over here asking, hey, you have Chiara come over here. Unmove could very easily restrain this Uma. However, they want to let him, Fuuko wants to let him go through his graduation, and I love her for that. She's really the GOAT, but it's kind of like the space arc. Sometimes you gotta stop trying to be the goody-goody two-shoes leader, and you have to be the leader who's like results driven, trying to get the job done. And right here, we need to get the job done, because let me talk a little bit about this Uma Color. We see at the end, Fuuko gives it a a kick, a really strong kick, and I don't know how to quantify how strong this kick would or should be. However, we've seen Fuuko stop a semi-truck. We've seen her stop a Zuishin Takan rod, which has literally blown craters into the earth. Like, we've seen her do some wild things. No, if she kicks this thing, and I'm saying it now, it's obviously just going to regenerate, absorb that shit, whatever it may be, you know, just amalgamate itself back into its full body. This is a really strong Uma, and the fact that at the end, whenever it's like, oh, let me turn the skies red, it can literally do that. Like, it could actually turn the skies red. It could just, this is gonna be like some JoJo stuff. Whenever David Productions freaking animates this, I hope that the world kind of like, remember whenever Unruin, he gets introduced, and whenever Ghost gets introduced, I don't know if they've ever really talked about this, but like the world just keeps kind of like blacking out for a second. It's just like boop, and everything goes dark. I'll put a panel of it up on screen right now. What if the world right now is just changing colors as Uma color is just spritzing and splatting around all this paint and stuff? I don't know. I love this Uma. I love its design. I love this chapter, and I love everything we got today. I'll probably need to edit this. This is probably getting long. I'm just excited. Too much coffee. Too much Undead Unluck. Holy Kringle. I'll be back. I have more stuff to make. Probably even go more in depth in this chapter. We'll get a video out of the whole arc at some point. I love Undead Unluck. That's the way I go.